Welcome to the Chancellor's, for attending the Chancellor's opening session. This is the one time of year that we all get together to discuss important initiatives and review the state of our district. I know your time is valuable, so I try to make these sessions useful for you. I appreciate your continued support. I'd like to ask Student Trustee David Robinson to come up and open our session this morning by leading the Pledge of Allegiance, followed by greetings from Board President Nancy Padberg.
Good morning. I ask everyone to rise and please say the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you.
Good morning. All right, I want to start by introducing the trustees who are here. You just heard from Student Trustee David Robinson. He's here in the front row. And we have Trustee Jim Wright. Could you stand, Jim? Okay. And someone said that Trustee Tim Jamal was here. Okay, there. I'm sorry, I can't see with these bright lights. I need to have sunglasses on. All right. So as you know, I'm Nancy Padberg, President of the Board, and I want to extend a warm welcome to all of you from the board members and our fellow trustees. The Chancellor's opening session marks the start of another academic year, and I'm pleased to see so many Flex Week activities related to student success at both colleges. In addition, there are sessions on technology, safety, training, strategic planning, and budget, including how to save student money on course materials. I'm happy to see us thinking about big ways, small and also big, that we can help our students. One of the highlights over the past year was a series of informative board presentations on student success. Our board presentations, and primarily by faculty, have been just outstanding. We heard about successful articulation partnerships with our K-12 and university partners. We've learned of efforts to strengthen access and success through orientation, counseling, matriculation, and assessment. We heard about an increased focus to develop student education plans and teach study habits and time management skills. We learned about peer tutors for math, referred and trained by faculty who incorporate lecture notes from courses to help them. We saw evidence of new and innovative ideas, including hands-free tutoring in writing at Saddleback College that enables students to fix their own work through critical thinking skills. We heard about statewide pilot projects at Irvine Valley College, which fuses two courses into one to accelerate college-level reading and writing skills with a 72% pass rate. We saw how the colleges align course offerings to support high-demand classes and repackage existing courses to create new degrees and certificates. We learned how our two colleges' accounting departments model a high level of cooperation and collaboration in aligning their schedules to put students' needs first. There are hundreds of these examples in our district, and the board is appreciative and encouraged to see innovation and collaboration to work and help our students. The board presentations at all of these meetings have just been outstanding, and I want to thank all of our administrators who helped to organize and present these. Thank you very much and have a wonderful year.
Next, I'd like to introduce the executive team. First is Saddleback College President Todd Burnett. Irvine Valley College President Glenn Rockmore. Vice Chancellor of Business Services Deborah Fitzsimmons. Vice Chancellor of Technology and Learning Services Bob Ramucci. Vice Chancellor of Human Resources David Bouguet. Associate Vice Chancellor of Economic Development Randy Peebles. I'd also like to introduce our governance leaders. First, Dan Walsh, Saddleback College Academic Senate President. Kathy Schmeidler, Irvine Valley College Academic Senate President. Mike Sauter, Saddleback College Classified Senate President. Vince Cooper, Irvine Valley College Classified Senate President. Paula Jacobs, Faculty Association President. Scott Green, CSEA President. And Santos Garcia, Police Officers Association President. Thank you for being here to show your support. Last, I'd be remiss if I didn't introduce a special guest that I invited, at least special to me, and that's my wife, Adair Portner. Adair, stand up. Okay, now it's at the start of the new academic year. We have new faculty members to introduce. Would Todd and Glenn come up and assist me with that?
Good morning, everybody. Well, this is always very exciting to introduce new members of our Saddleback College and district family. I'm very pleased to introduce 15 new full-time faculty at Saddleback College. And when I call your name, if you could please stand. In alphabetical order, first we have Jody Caggiano. She's a new nursing faculty. Jody. Professor in our business entrepreneurship, Scott Frederickson. Professor in English composition, Carrie Golding. One of a couple of our new mathematics instructors, Edgar Haley. And also in mathematics, Jason Hull. Another one of our wonderful nursing faculty, Ann Lawson. Our first full-time instructor for health information technology, Safia Mamoun. Once again, other wonderful nursing faculty, Serena McLean. Professor of Chemistry, Ryan McKeechee. English composition, Brett Myron. Our speech and forensics coach, Sean O'Rourke, in the back there. Professor of Biology, Bruno Passarelli. A new addition to our automotive technology program, Vincent Polizzi. Professor of two-dimensional design and drawing, Aaron O'Shea. Thank you. And last and certainly not least, our new professor over in kinesiology, Lindsay Steinride.
Good morning, everyone. It's my pleasure to introduce Irvine Valley College's new faculty this year. First of all, out of Business Sciences, Assistant Professor, Computer Information Management Instructor, Carolina Kusoy. Out of Guidance and Counseling, supporting our veterans, Assistant Professor, Counselor, Veterans Generalist is Mark Minkler. I will mention Erin Queeley because she is in your program here. Due to personal reasons, she had to withdraw. And then finally, Juliana Throckmorton French for Fine Arts, Assistant Professor at Communication Studies and Forensic. Jules? Thank you very much.
Next, we have the introduction of administrators and managers, which I will do. Thank you, Todd and Glenn, for introducing the faculty. First is Rosie Aguilar, Payroll and Benefits Processing Manager, District Services. She's important for all of you. Kathleen Grenier. She's Dean of Online and Extended Education at Irvine Valley College. Don Lindbow, who's in a new position, I believe, Student Payment and Veterans Offices Manager, Saddleback College. Anthony Maciel, Director of Technology and Broadcast Systems, Saddleback College. Roxanne Metz, College and Grants Contracts Administrator, Saddleback College. Mary Opal, Construction Manager, District Services. Elisa Oransky, Director, Annual Giving and Development, Foundation, Saddleback. James Rogers, Assistant Director, Facilities, Saddleback. David Schiermeyer, Construction Manager, District Services. Kathleen Worley, Vice President of Instruction, Saddleback College. Christopher Wilkinson, Chief of Police, Saddleback College. He's hiding over there. And last, David Young, Police Operations Lieutenant, Irvine Valley College. We're now privileged to have a performance from 4 of our promising jazz students. Luke Reeder on tenor sax, Justin Hershey on piano, Josh Kobian on bass, and Ian Nakazawa on drums. Please join me in welcoming them. They're going to play Stablemates. I'd like to thank Professor Joey Sellers and Dean Bart McHenry for coordinating this wonderful addition to the program. And during that performance, my special guest gave me a helpful suggestion, which spouses are very good at. And she told me that I wasn't talking loud enough. So I'll try to fix that. If it gets too loud, maybe she'll come up and tell me. See what you get for that, Adair? Today we have a couple of presentations, one on the status of ATEP and one on disruptive innovation and the role that technology is playing in education. First, I would like to discuss some district-wide progress and comment on the changes we are seeing across the state, the nation, in higher education. Over the past 3 years, our district has undergone positive transformation. Much of this was initiated through our accreditation work, which led to vast improvements in transparent decision-making, resource allocation, strategic planning, and communication. This provided an incentive for our district to begin working together. Many of you contributed to this progress, and I thank you for investing in the district. We have just finished year 2 of our 3-year district-wide strategic plan. And to date, we have accomplished about 2/3 of our 6 goals, 14 objectives, and 77 action steps. We have also completed our second cycle of basic aid resource allocation, testing the process put in place by the Basic Aid Allocation Recommendation Committee, a mouthful. That's why they call it BARC. And so far, that seems to be working fairly well. Our demands to meet accreditation requirements facilitated the need to create a district-wide strategic plan, after the colleges had already developed their strategic plan. Many of you have heard me say that this was a lot like parallel parking a Mack truck between 2 other already parked trucks. In June, the District-Wide Strategic Planning Council held a retreat to discuss how to better integrate the next district-wide strategic plan with the planning efforts of the colleges and district services so we can work toward common goals and direction. That effort is ongoing, and I want to thank the presidents and our district college research directors for helping me to get these plans better aligned. Working together provides an increased likelihood of success. The new 6-year strategic plan will be in place from 2014 to 2020. So we need to be thoughtful and aligned in our planning. The more we can align our planning efforts and unite our vision, the better it is for our students, the community, and our district's fiscal resources. Accreditation continues to be a good motivator for working together. Over the last year, many changes have taken place that affect us. Last August, when we met for the Chancellor's opening session, the state budget's community college system funding were in a downward spiral. The governor pledged to do a half cuts, half revenue budget strategy, and he lobbied hard for the passage of Proposition 30 to restore the funding for education. During the process, community colleges took an unprecedented seat on center stage as funds declined and students were turned away. Student success became a central focus and got the attention of not only taxpayers and legislators, but of research think tanks and foundations like Lumina, Gates, and others who invest in educational causes. Their efforts are well-funded and necessary if we're to bring education and business together to truly address our nation's future. The election brought a supermajority in the state legislature with new term limits that enabled them to serve up to 12 years. As a result, our legislative efforts this year involved educating new members on issues related to student success, to completion, student veterans, financial aid, basic skills, and adult education. It is worth noting that these legislators could be in office for a long time, long enough to make some lasting changes. The Student Success Initiative began to introduce reform measures outlined in SB 1456, the Student Success Act. We got a new state chancellor, Bryce Harris, who is tasked with implementing this initiative across the 112 community colleges. The state's chancellor's office rolled out tools such as the Student Success Scorecard and Salary Surfer, tools to help us more uniformly capture and report data and communicate our outcomes. While the state chancellor's office reiterated its primary goals of transfer, career technical education, and basic skills, we also saw a heightened interest in tracking completions, online education, and legislative reform. These are all signs that accountability, productivity, and efficiency are top of mind for the state and national leaders. I don't think this interest is temporary. The U.S. Secretary of Education, Arne Duncan, recently spoke to an audience of higher education executives. He stated that higher education concerns boil down to 3 interrelated core elements. 1, the price of education is too high. 2, the college completion rate is too low. 3, there is too little accountability in higher education for improving attainment and achievement. Even in California, where community colleges have the lowest tuition in the nation, increased costs have been shifted to students over the last 5 to 7 years. President Obama recently stated that he will soon unveil a plan to promote significant reform in higher education, with an emphasis on controlling what colleges charge students and families. In that same speech, he mentioned new approaches to shorten the path to a degree, such as blending teaching with online learning. He pointed to states that are testing new ways to fund colleges, based not on how many students we enroll, but how many of them graduate. If you are wondering why there is so much interest in higher education reform, look at what employers are saying. Companies continue to complain of worker shortages and skills gaps. Employers cannot find workers with the right skills to fill their current job openings, much less the jobs of the future. In 2012, Manpower Group, which is the world's 3rd largest staffing company, conducted a talent search survey. 33% of all companies identified a lack of technical competencies or on-the-job skills as their main difficulty in hiring qualified workers. That figure had increased 11% from the previous year. In the advanced manufacturing sector, where advanced manufacturing techniques are dramatically increasing, 2/3 reported moderate to severe shortages of qualified workers. There is also a growing issue in the healthcare industry. All of this illustrates common challenges in trying to meet the bipartisan goal articulated 4 years ago, that America will again lead the world in college attainment by the year 2020. Technology will play a major role in going forward, but it can't fix all of the issues. There is a collective call, a shared responsibility, that involves K-12s, community colleges, 4-year colleges and universities, businesses, think tanks, research institutions, and public policy makers. Everyone is concerned about how to meet these goals in a meaningful way that will sustain U.S. competitiveness. The Lumina Foundation estimates that by 2018, 61% of all California jobs will require a post-secondary education. Clearly, we have our work cut out for us if we are to have any hope of meeting these ambitious objectives. Over the next year, I plan to work with our presidents to detail plans and expectations for meeting the student success initiatives. That is one area we need to focus on. We also have important work in meeting the economic and workforce demands of our community. We are fortunate to have a supportive board and talented people to get these priorities going in a way that is measurable. We have made other notable strides over the past year, and I know many of you have worked hard. We're making progress on respectful interactions and collaboration with the diligent work of 5 task forces. As a reminder, this is goal number 1 in our district-wide strategic plan. The presidents and I are reviewing the task force reports to identify issues and suggestions that may help us. I'm already noticing a more positive spirit district-wide, an increased effort to model respectful behavior. I've watched district and college employees work together on joint projects and board presentations, showing great levels of collaboration and cooperation. This work will be ongoing, and I ask that you discard all the old history that weighs us down and focus on how you can be part of the positive change movement here. Finally, I would be remiss if I didn't mention our ambitious district-wide business process analysis project. This analysis will identify areas in our workflow that can be made more efficient. It will allow us to implement efficiencies, model best practices, improve services, and reduce operational costs. It's ideal for us to do this, to conduct this analysis prior to identifying and procuring a new human resources financial software system. To date, we have reviewed the following processes: budget, purchasing, accounts payable, and accounts receivable, hiring processes and employee orientation, facilities planning and construction, financial aid processing, board agenda development, payroll and timekeeping, curriculum development, travel, grants and auxiliaries, benefits processing, and contracts. There is a real opportunity to bring relief to the cumbersome processes that have weighed us down and have created unnecessary workloads. Thanks to all of you who have participated in these sessions, it's important that we get input from those who use these processes the most. I am hopeful that changes in processes and software can be implemented in a way that allows us to work smarter, not harder. I'm pleased to say that we have made significant progress on most of the legal issues and city regulations that bogged down our ATEP project for so many years. However, there is still a lot of work to do. We are waiting for the Navy to release half of the land which is under their environmental remediation. We need to master plan the site so we prioritize our space and usage wisely. We need to find additional funding or prioritize facilities at ATEP like we do all other college projects. There is no special ATEP pot of money. Resource allocation for all district projects is guided by policy and overseen by BARC. BARC allocates funding based on college priorities defined by the colleges. The board has approved initial anchor courses and programs and services proposed by the colleges 18 months ago. Program development is just now beginning. I'd like to ask Deborah Fitzsimmons and Randy Peebles to come on stage to provide an overview of ATEP's most recent progress and upcoming planning steps. ATEP continues to be an opportunity of great importance.
All right.
As Chancellor Portner has indicated, besides Saddleback College and IVC, our district has a third campus location called ATEP. We received this ATEP land from the Navy, and although it was free, it did come with special conditions and the need for environmental cleanup. We also had to do a lot of demos and site prep to get the property ready for us to create a campus. The central location that you can see here of the ATEP property is very desirable for any college campus. If you go onto Google Maps and type in Orange County, California, the map will land you right smack in the middle of the ATEP site. So you can see that we are right in the center of Orange County, which is really ideal. Having this central location makes it much more easier to talk with other educational institutions and to businesses regarding regional partnerships. This morning, we are covering 4 key areas to bring you up to date with the progress at ATEP. We will provide a snapshot of where we are today, next steps in the planning processes, the roles and responsibilities of the college and district services, and the challenges and opportunities this project presents.
As Chancellor Portner mentioned, the district has been involved for many years working complex issues related to entitlement for the future use of ATEP. Entitlement means the use of land, what you can and can't build on the property, its development rights, zoning, planning, zoning, permits, and so forth. The map you see here shows the configuration of the land which was conveyed to the district in 2004. When it was conveyed, half of the property in the lower area was in fee and the other half was leased in furtherance conveyance, actually the lower part, which means the Navy was doing environmental cleanup. It had to be done before it can be conveyed in title. Also, we were only originally authorized to do 100% or all education on the property, but we wanted to be able to develop support activities that would normally be found on a college campus, as well as partnerships with businesses and industries that have synergies with our college programs. This odd-shaped parcel did not allow for efficient use for all the owners, the district, which is in blue, the County of Orange in green, or the City of Tustin, which is now in yellow. The shape made it difficult and expensive to develop. The City of Tustin and the district have worked and finalized a land exchange and development agreement which closed escrow on this last Friday, August 9th. Here we see Chancellor Gary Portner and City Tustin Manager Jeff Parker signing the final closing documents to close the deal. We're pretty excited about that. And the land configuration now looks like this.
Okay, there we go.
This.
As you see, this newly configured district property is shaded in blue. And this makes for a more efficient property to develop because of its rectangular shape. It will also be less expensive to develop and have better road access in this configuration. Bell Avenue will be extended soon. And that is the yellow road that's going down the middle of the property. I'm having a problem with my clicker. Okay. We will be prepping the site for Bell Avenue by demoing some of the buildings in the Bell Avenue extension right away and doing rough grading. And the city will begin the road construction. We expect this to be completed in a few years. There we go. There's Bell Avenue. All right. This line shows the current campus. Hopefully this line will show the current campus here. Okay. Can you check the mouse up there, please? Okay, there you go. That is the current campus right now, but now our temporary campus is owned by the City of Tustin as part of the recent land exchange. We have a 3-year lease now for $1 a year to rent back that campus, and that will provide a transitional time for IVC classes. The leased land is in brown and orange. There you go. Okay. This land is shaped here in orange and is land that is being cleaned up by the Navy and is leased to us in furtherance and conveyance, as Randy has indicated. It will take about a year or more until it will be made in fee to us. Even though we can develop on that land now, it's difficult and not practical to do. It will be more attractive to developers when it's in fee. Their lenders also would likely provide a developer the needed finances when it's in fee title as well, rather than the leased land, which it is right now. You can see that this is quite a large piece when you look at the map here of the entire property. So we really are in a waiting period of being able to develop this piece of land. Here's a picture of demo that's been occurring on the property. We've been making some really great progress. It's a massive undertaking. We've already demoed over 16 major buildings over the past 2.5 years. And because the Navy buildings on the property were in bad condition and not usable, we're going to be planning to demo 4 more buildings, as well as do all the rough grading needed to use the property. We have recently entered into a development agreement with the City of Tustin. This agreement outlines exactly what we can and can't do in regards to developing the property. There comes the school bus again. As you might imagine, we'll be allowed to build educational buildings. This means we can build standard classrooms, labs, anything you normally would expect for educational purposes. We also can build space that's considered supportive use. So that would be such things as business incubators, applied research labs. We could have bookstores, student housing, cafeteria, that kind of thing. Anything you normally see on a college campus. The development agreement now allows us to build non-educational, commercial, income-producing space. We weren't authorized to do that when it was originally conveyed to us. We can have up to 49% of the site be non-commercial, which can bring income back to the property for our own buildings. However, we have to build a minimum amount of educational buildings first before having any business partnerships at the site. This condition is in place to ensure that Tustin has a college campus in the city, which they desire very much. We also can't do any old thing. There you saw fast food drive-in restaurants and tattoo parlors. Those were a no-no. We can't do those type of things on the property.
In January of 2012, the Board of Trustees approved the college site assignments on the property. These are approximately equal land sites for each college building, as you can see here, and they include infrastructure, parking, and each are about 30,000 square feet. With the new land configuration completed, we'll need to embark on a new phase of planning. It will now be more efficient and easier to plan with this new layout.
There's a lot of planning we still need to do. We need to create a master plan for land use and development entitlements. We need to determine how internal streets will be placed for internal circulation. We need to determine the best placement for site locations for the colleges, educational partners, and business partners. And we need to do lease agreement templates to be created for various income partners. Here is a map of ATEP function map here. You know, developing a campus from scratch is quite complex. There are roles and responsibilities for various pieces at the college and at the district services. As you can imagine, it involves a lot of communication and a lot of communication with each other and coordination. The ATEP function map was created with lots of input by many participatory governance groups as part of accreditation and the district-wide decision-making manual. It clearly outlines the division of responsibilities, and on the screen, this is only a portion of that ATEP responsibility map. These coordinated responsibilities are important to have for effective planning and for coordination of future operations at the site. As you would expect, the college's responsibilities are programs and instructional-related planning and identifying and maintaining academic partnerships with college programs and services. District Services has the primary role of all site and land entitlement related matters. Also environmental related matters, ground leases, lease negotiations with potential partners, site demos, and the normal business related items such as contracts, accounting, and budgeting for site development. There are coordinated but different responsibilities between colleges and the district services. And some of these are identification and recruitment for ground lease partnering, input for master planning and college assigned facilities design, seeking external funding opportunities, in interior facility planning.
Now we're going to take a brief look at the academic programming approved for each college at ATEP. The college proposed and the Board of Trustees approved complementary and non-competitive programs for each college at the ATEP site at their February 2012 meeting. The programs listed here for Saddleback College: patient care units, emergency services, clinical services, assessment and training, patient services, medical records, all part of a new innovative Center for Innovation in Healthcare Education. Additionally, the colleges will then be looking for additional partners, some of which they already have, but expanding partnerships to help not just their academic programs, but also to help possibly in developing the site. Here we have the Irvine Valley College, again, programs that they proposed to the Board of Trustees in 2012. Multimedia technology, electrical technology and resource management, applied technology, administration of justice, and business management. They're working on those programs now to develop some and expand others. And of course, they have the potential for business partners, some of which they've secured already, but in expanding that to support their programs and also to support future development.
We have gotten through a major milestone by having the land exchange completed with the City of Tustin and also entering into agreements such as the development agreement and agreement to construct Bell Avenue. But we still have a lot of next steps. Some of it will be done in parallel with each other. For instance, a lot of the things on top listed here: academic program planning, prepping the site, doing the demoing, looking for external funding, master planning the site, transition planning of IBC and the ATEP operations, and developing ground lease templates. All can be done pretty much fairly parallel to each other. There are other things that can only be done one after another. We have to wait for the transfer of the property from the Navy, for instance, before the County of Orange 10-acre land exchange can take place. And that was in the map that you saw. That was the green highlighted shaded property for County of Orange. So in summary, there's a lot of next steps, and we need to be mindful about planning it all out. We still have some challenges to overcome. And as you might imagine, we need dollars to develop the ATEP campus. There are several sources that are possible. We could use our existing resources, but that's not preferable. We are looking for grants, foundation and future partners, donors, and other external funding sources. The colleges will be pursuing grants for academic programs and program planning, and district services will be pursuing funds for the physical plant development. There is an opportunity for the ATEP project to find new ways, non-traditional ways of obtaining funding besides the tried and true. And we would have to do a lot of bake sales because that's not really the option for us. It's very expensive.
Well, here's the type of Navy remediation that's been going on at not just ATEP, but all the Tustin Legacy area. This equipment is starting to be cleared as they move toward the next steps. We still have somewhere around 7 to 12 months of work to be done before the remaining property completes environmental work and documentation required to become eligible for full transfer entitled to the district. There's also the challenge of academic programming and balancing the development of academic programs at ATEP in relation to college programs. This includes state space calculations and load, operational budgets, enrollment management, and CTE focus on how and what to develop at ATEP and just how fast.
In the past, we've always treated the ATEP project as a standalone thing. ATEP should not be looked at as an island anymore. Everything in regards to budget, academic planning, enrollment planning, etc., needs to be institutionalized within the current colleges and district-wide processes. ATEP needs to be looked at holistically in relationship to planning at the colleges and district-wide. It's no longer a separate place out there somewhere in Tustin that district services staff works on. It's an extension, a new site for college career and technical educational programs. We certainly have an opportunity to build something unique at this site. With this ATEP project, we can really reach for the sky and be thoughtful about what to make this new campus be. We need to be planning and carefully thinking about what the possibilities are. The opportunities are really quite endless. Thank you.
Thank you.
I want to thank Deborah and Randy for that presentation. You have both done an immense amount of work in getting this project completed to this stage. Up next, we have Bob Bramucci, Vice Chancellor of Technology and Learning Services, who is going to give us some insight into technology and disruptive innovation in education. Bob has been presenting keynote addresses on this topic throughout the nation, and several groups also within our district. I think the content is important, and since it is being discussed in the national discourse, I asked him to present it here today. Please welcome Bob Bramucci.
Good morning. Still not on? Here we go. Now we have it. What keeps you up at night? For me, lately, it's been haters. I have what I call tripwires. There are all these automated alerts that whenever certain words appear in a story, anywhere in the English-speaking world, it emails me. And by the frequency of these things I'm getting, I can kind of feel that I have a finger on the pulse of the national mood for some of this stuff. So I've collected a lot of these stories, and I'd like to show you a few of them. Thank you. Let me pull some quotes from one of these stories for you. In 50 years, if not much sooner, half of the roughly 4,500 colleges and universities operating in the United States will have ceased to exist. How do I know this will happen? because recent history shows us that the internet is the great destroyer of any traditional business that relies on the sale of information. So why are they saying these things about us? It boils down to two reasons. The first is the prospect that there is an economic bubble in higher education akin to the mortgage bubble. The second is that higher education is ripe for what is called disruptive innovation. We'll look at each of those in turn. First, a bubble. What's a bubble? Well, an economic bubble tends to happen when the cost of money is low and money is widely available. There's some good that is going up far faster than the rate of inflation. And as more and more investors pile on, they gain this irrational exuberance and believe that this is going to keep going up like this forever. Bubbles tend to end when the supply of money lessens or there's a contraction of credit. Bubbles are nothing new. In fact, one of the most famous ones happened in the 1700s, the Great Tulip Panic in Holland, where at its height, one tulip bulb was trading for the yearly salary of a skilled workman and several for a house. Most recently, it's been the mortgage bubble. Lest I come off like an expert, my house is still underwater. Why are they saying that higher education might be in a bubble? Well, this is a chart of how much the prices of various things have gone up over time. And you can see, compared to the CPI, that is all consumer items, college tuition and fees have gone up far faster than gasoline, medical care. In fact, the only consumer good I've been able to find that has risen at a faster pace than higher education has been tobacco products, where the price increases are because the government is trying intentionally to destroy the market. We mentioned that a bubble needs available credit. Well, student loans now top over $1 trillion. Recently, $23,000 per borrower. This year, it's on pace to top $30,000 per borrower. At the beginning of the economic contraction, you saw a contraction in auto debt and credit card debt, but student debt continues apace. As you might imagine, both Pell Grants and the average amount of those Pell Grants have skyrocketed, and with the grants comes the skyrocketing also in delinquencies. And for those of you that follow the mortgage crisis, some of the terminology that's beginning to be used is eerily similar. The number of student loans held by subprime borrowers. Where have we seen that before? To make it worse, there's an increasing disparity between how much college costs and the economic purchasing power of that degree. If you look at over the decade from 2000 to 2010, tuition went up 72%, and the purchasing power of a bachelor's degree went down by 14.7%. Moody's, the financial rating organization, last year said that half of all American colleges and universities had what they called, quote, an unsustainable business model. Recently, though, Moody's amended their forecast. It's now 100% of colleges and universities. Now, there are many causes. One of the larger causes is disinvestment by states. You can see with the economic downturn, more of a downturn in investment by states in their higher educational institutions than any time in recent memory. But there are plenty of other causes, like administrators, like me. The UC system now has more administrators than they do teaching faculty. But faculty are not entirely without blame, though it's mostly university faculty, not college faculty. Those of us that worked in research labs know that in R1 universities, the big research powerhouses, research is king and teaching is mostly given lip service. The professors seeking tenure know this also. So over the past 30 years, the Chronicle of Higher Education writes that the average teaching load in universities has declined by nearly 50%. But also another cause is the students themselves. When you're borrowing so much, you want to have a nice experience. This is a new dorm at Rutgers. It costs $55 million. It has a Cold Stone Creamery, a 7-Eleven, a state-of-the-art gym, and you can get grocery delivery, room cleaning, laundry services. Where can we sign up, right? In fact, for me and some other WAGs, the proxy for how much you've spent on the student amenities raise can be approximated by the height of your university's climbing wall. Now, the effects of this, I tried to cast about for a canary in a coal mine, and I think I found it in law school. They've known for decades now that law schools were producing and more lawyers than there were jobs. But only recently, law school applications are plummeting. This is causing a great deal of consternation in that industry and even leading to the unthinkable. Here I'd like to stop for a second and draw a distinction between formal and informal learning. Raise your hand if you've ever learned something from somebody that didn't have a master's degree or a PhD. All right, so we all acknowledge that there's both sides of this equation. There's the formal side that we work in, and there's this informal side as well. Hopefully you could tell a little earlier that as a child I had some piano lessons. And that was a very formal process. It included textbooks, it had classes, or in this case private lessons. It even had these horrible public tests called recitals. Remember those? But then my parents, who got the Sears catalog, bought this guitar, the $42.95 one, electric guitar for my older brother. And he lost interest in it, but I didn't. It was a terrible guitar. It had strings that far off the fretboard, but I didn't care. I'd sneak into the room and play it till my fingers bled. And when my parents saw that, they said, well, maybe we'll let him switch from piano over to guitar. And because the formal system was all we knew, that's what we did. They took me to the music store. Out comes a guy with Brill cream in his hair and a Gresh country gentleman guitar. And we open the guitar method, and we start working on songs like this. No. I don't want to learn how to play that. I want to learn how to play this. And so I left formal guitar instruction, intending never to return. Now, I told some of you in the past that I grew up in this place. It was a hub for Delta and early blues music. It was called West Memphis, Arkansas. At one time or another, Albert King, B.B. King, Howlin' Wolf, John Lee Hooker, even Robert Johnson were in town. And growing up as a kid, though, that era had passed, so for me, it was very unusual to have a record collection like I had. Nobody had the musical taste in old blues band and early rock and roll that I had. So I was heartened when I found that somebody else had it worse. In England, about 15 years before, there had been a youth that liked those records and was holding a stack of them while he was standing in the tube station. And nobody liked the kind of records that he liked. But somebody came up and started excitingly talking with him and said, I know all those. And so he writes to his aunt very excitedly, and he says, he's got every record Chuck Berry ever made. All his mates have too. They're all rhythm and blues fans. I mean, real R&B. I mean, Jimmy Reed, Muddy Waters, Chuck, Howlin' Wolf, John Lee Hooker. Real low-down stuff. Marvelous. And so Keith Richards continues writing to his Aunt Polly saying, anyways, the guy on the station, he is called Mick Jagger. And he made plans to go hang out with him that weekend. 3 months after Aunt Polly got the letter, the Stones had their first gig. I also collect stories on disruption, and I've been getting a lot of them lately also. Oops, helps if you turn it the right direction. So I'd like to show you some of those studies, or those articles. And in the meantime, I'll do you a Keith song, West Memphis style. always took candy from strangers. Never wanna get me no trade. Wanna be like Papa, working for the boss every night and day. I need love to keep me happy. I need love to keep me happy, baby. Baby, won't you keep me happy? Never gotta flash out cocktails till I get some flesh on the bone. Never gonna fly in a Learjet. Why not just fly way back home? I need love to keep me happy. I need love to keep me happy, baby. Baby, won't you keep me happy? Darling, won't you keep me happy? Baby, won't you keep me happy? That guitar was made with a metal resonator to project in an era before electricity. And this is a socket wrench from Home Depot over there. So with all of this disruption, this theory, by the way, is not mine. It comes from Harvard Business School, Dr. Clayton Christensen. He and his team have studied over 100 industries where disruption has taken place. They've written a ton of books on all of this. However, I recommend to you that if you go to Google and you just Google Disrupting College PDF, you can get this one for free and start there. What is disruption? According to Christensen, it is the process by which a sector that has previously served only a limited few because its products were complicated, expensive, and inaccessible, is transformed into one whose products and services are simple, affordable, and convenient, and serves many, no matter their wealth or expertise. There are two kinds of disruptive innovation. This scary graph, let's take just the top part of it. The first kind of disruptive innovation happens because you're in a business, you're naturally trying to make your product better and better, so you make incremental improvements in it. At a certain point, you've improved it so much, it has so many new features, that there are some consumers out there wondering, wow, I wish I could buy a bargain basement version of that for about half the cost. And so enter somebody to compete with you, but they're competing on such a low level, usually not taking much of your business, it's your lowest margin product, so you're really not that scared of them. The second kind of disruptive innovation is kind of magic to me. It's converting non-consumers into consumers. That is kind of creating customers out of thin air. Let's look at examples of both of these. The classic example of a lower end market disruption are the steel mills. America was known for its gargantuan steel mills until a new kind of steel mill came along called mini mills. As the name suggested, they were smaller, but they made poor quality steel. Luckily though, there's a market for poor quality steel. It's called rebar. And so they entered and disrupted and took the rebar market. Now the steel mills looked at that and they weren't right. They said rebar is a very tiny fraction of our market. It's the lowest margins that we make on anything. Good riddance. But what Christensen says is that the mini mills had a scalable driver. They were increasing the quality of their steel at a rate or slope on the line that is far faster than the conventional mills were. So over time, next they launched an attack on the angle iron market and took that. That started to smart. And by the time the steel companies, the large ones, woke up, it was all over. The last main steel mill has closed in America. The entire market now belongs to the mini mills. An example of converting non-customers into customers happened when Digital Equipment Corporation, they made mini and mainframe computers, $500,000 and up. And when they got word that a couple of upstarts in a garage in Cupertino had created a computer, they investigated. And they laughed. They said, this is no threat to us. Those two Steves are just making toys. What they didn't understand was Steve Jobs and Steve Wozniak weren't after their mini and mainframe customers. They were out to convert families who had never owned a computer into customers. Is disruption a bad thing? Well, it depends on where you're standing. If you're in the industry being disrupted, it's catastrophic. But if you're on the outside, disruption is an unambiguously good thing. It is a primary driver of economic growth and a key force that mitigates inflation. It is the process by which expensive, complicated products and services become simple and affordable. And indeed, higher ed has been disrupted several times before, but they've always been fairly small disruptions. The first one came with the Morrill Act, which was signed into law by President Abraham Lincoln. The Morrill Act set aside large swaths of land in every state, intending that most of the land will be sold in order to fund building a university on the remaining land. The second disruption was us, community colleges. And notice it's a hallmark of disruption every time, grumblings from incumbents. When the Morrill Act came around, there were lots of editorials decrying the waste of spending money on cow colleges for hayseeds. When community colleges opened their door, the similar bleatings were, why are we spending money on college for grease monkeys? And more recently, for-profit. We, the conventional formal system of education, had all the buildings, had all the faculty, had all the structure, but we didn't listen when business people said that they would pay a premium to advance in their jobs. And so an alternative structure has arisen. Now, each one of these segments, the land-grant universities, community colleges, for-profits, tend to kind of have their time. There was a time in America where a community college was opening on average every week, but that time is long gone. In the past 30 years, virtually all of the growth by institution in American higher education has been for-profits, either the black or the red bars at the top. Christensen says that though online classes have been around for a while, what's different this time is the pace of technology and the fact that he believes online classes can serve as what his model calls a scalable driver. And a scalable driver acts like a ratchet. It ratchets up a feature, in this case, say quality, over time, and it does not regress. Here's an example of that. The first boxing game that I ever played was on the Atari 2600. Remember that? This is what it looked like, and you would see the boxer punch this way, and occasionally they would shuffle sideways, and they'd punch again, like the old Rock'em Sock'em robots. If you were to go out 30 years later, today, and buy a boxing game, it's going to look like this. That's the ratchet. I'm also disconcerted because most of the major innovation that I'm seeing is not coming out of the formal educational space, but rather the informal space. MIT, for example, just released a system that does crowdsourced grading, aiming to get feedback to writers from more people more quickly than conventional systems. MIT is also working with Fujitsu on a new learning management system, same product category as Blackboard. Except this one will be embedded with very sophisticated mathematics that will personalize the learning. A person we're working with on one of our projects, or one of his other side projects, is for a very famous electronics firm. Your TV now, the next generation of TVs will have a camera that if you opt in will watch you watching TV and know what you like and don't like, and you'll be able to change the channels by waving your arms and things like that. They call that effective computing. MIT is working on using a webcam that will study the student while they're taking everything, while they're reading, doing all the quizzes, everything, and it knows whether you're frustrated or not. It just launched a $50 million venture capital firm. In fact, more venture capital is pouring into higher education this year than I've ever seen in my lifetime. I'm not so much worried about the publishers, because to me, this is the Hail Mary pass from them. They know that their business model is dying, and they're casting about for a new one. After all, they've got the infrastructure, they've got the personnel, and they know the higher education business. What they don't have is a sustainable business model. Stone's throw from here, 15 miles away, very close to IVC, is a company called Blizzard. Blizzard makes games, and they sell access to those games. And access to just one of those games, World of Warcraft, before the economic downturn had over 10 million paying customers every month. Now it's down to about 8 million. But consider this, there's fewer than 10 million students in all community colleges in the country. Nassim Nicholas Taleb talks about black swans, that is, rare events with such important impact that it behooves one to keep them in mind. For example, half of the movement of the stock market over the past century has taken place on just a handful of trading days. Even if you aren't worried about anything that I've said so far, the idea that if this happens, the way it's decimated so many other industries, it bears watching. Here's a case study. Ritz Camera got started in 1918. That was 8 years after the first California Community College opened its doors at Fresno. They grew over time to be about the same size as the entire American community college system if you measure just by number of stores. They had about 1,300 stores. We have about that many community colleges in the country. Now, you probably saw their stores. They were tucked away in malls. They had a very small inventory. They tended to sell high-end goods. But they made a lot of their money on service and on film developing. But then, something changed. Digital cameras came on the scene. And so first it eroded their film business. And second, let's say you've got a 5-year-old digital camera and it breaks. What do? You don't get it serviced, you just buy a new one. And where do you do that? Chances are today it's a big box store, because the big box stores have a far greater command of supply chain management than the small stores like Ritz do. So Ritz, despite being around for about as long as the California community colleges and to expand it to about the same number of institutions or stores as all of community colleges, first lost their film business, then lost their entire business. Let's say I was to come in here with a couple of ropes, a thick one and a thin one, and I would say, we're going to run the thick rope because we have more room up here at the front this way. And then I'm going to take the small rope and I'm going to throw it as close as I can right down the middle here. And I'm going to say, okay, if you're on this side of the rope, get up and grab the rope. We're going to play tug of war, but only if you can bench press your body weight or better. Okay? All right, over here. Everybody grab the rope. Come on, everybody. Everybody. Who's going to win the tug of war? This side. That is what scares me more than anything. Playing a 9-foot analog piano is a rare treat. If I travel, I was looking for something portable that I could take, maybe with mini keys or maybe a roll-up piano. So I'm looking on Amazon. You ever read those reviews on Amazon? This was a really low-rated 1-star review on Amazon for somebody that was trying to talk me away from the product that I was leaning toward. And it says, the piano not served. My daughter is just to put them on. See, this product did not work. It's a bad investment. I feel scammed. And the worst of all is that I live in Venezuela, and hell is the refund. Sounds like an unmade Sergio Leone spaghetti western, doesn't it? But what was funny is even though this is very low rated, it was still useful to me. To me, this is an example of everybody grab the rope. There are certain segments of business that use a binary talent model. It's like a light switch. It's either on or it's off. We're one of those segments. You can teach in college if you have a master's, a PhD, or an equivalency. But anyone would allow that out in the world there are people that really know their stuff that lack those. So really we put that into place for a couple of reasons. One was quality control, because overall somebody with a PhD is more likely to have more competence than somebody with a lower level credential. But the other reason we did it was for our own convenience, because it's bad enough now trying to wade through 150 job applications, right? Can you imagine if we didn't have that? But keep in mind, we did that for us. We didn't do it because the underlying talent model out in the world is a binary talent model. No, the talent model in the world is a continuous talent model represented by a dimmer switch. The biggest websites in the world are all a dimmer switch. They're all grab the rope. They all provide a platform, and then the users provide all the value via crowdsourcing. Google couldn't sell ads unless it knew what you and you and you were searching for on the web or looking at. When Google bought YouTube for $1.6 billion, it had about 70 employees. They weren't buying the employees, they were buying the business model. There is no YouTube without you watching videos or posting your own videos. No Facebook or Twitter without you communicating with your friends. No eBay without you or other people buying and selling things. No Amazon without the very trusted reviews from people. The largest websites in the world are now all crowdsourcing websites, and crowdsourcing is coming for virtually every market segment. Here's another case study, stock photography. I have some experience with this because I used to have to buy the picture that went out on the back of the paper printed schedule. You remember those? It went out to 250,000 households, and I used to go to either Getty Images or Corbis Images, because that's pretty much all there was. And to buy that one 4x6 photo cost $500 to buy the royalty-free rights. Today I can go on iStock Photo or a number of similar sites and buy the same size, same quality photo for $5. What happens to an industry in one decade that reduces this price of their essential good, not by 100%, but by 100 times? I mean, if that happened to us, we'd be selling 3-credit courses for $12. Higher education is more than teaching. It's also research and then raising the money to do that research. So I looked and see if crowdsourcing is making any inroads in those areas. And indeed, Kiva.org, some of you have seen this. It's similar to the Heifer International catalog you get that asks to buy livestock for people in the developing world. In this case, you can get started for $25, and you can see the pitches of the people that need that to run their taxi business or buy a cow or whatever. And what's extraordinary to me is that Kiva has a loan repayment rate of 97%, higher than any bank. Some of you may have funded some projects on Kickstarter, for example. But I'm seeing this occur with scientific research along the province of government grants. Sites like Petri Dish or MicroRIZA allowed the crowd to fund projects in which they are interested. So in looking around the higher education landscape, I see lots of early entrants in both types of disruptive innovation. On the competing with non-consumption, there are places like the University of the People and Peer-to-Peer University, Sailor.org, Khan Academy, and at the low-end market, there are places like Altius, Udemy. Georgia Tech has a top 10 rated master's program in computer science. They're going to offer it online for $7,000. That's about 10% of the cost that many people pay elsewhere. Straighterline is unusual. You pay them $99 a month, and you take all the college courses that you feel you're capable of. But here's the rub. The college courses don't count because they're not accredited. But Straighterline has accreditation agreements, articulation agreements, with over 40 colleges and universities. And if you transfer to one of those, something magical happens. 5 seconds ago, none of what you did was college credit. Now it all is. There's also a movement to change the very heart of the model we use, which is based on something called seat time. It's the idea of measuring inputs. If you spent long enough time studying it, you must know it. That's changing now more to an output model, both in accreditation and elsewhere. I got this story this week, competency-based transcripts. What it's saying is that even universities that use a seat time model are now starting to offer a competency-based alternative transcript, something like this. And you can expect that more institutions will do that in the future. And you're starting to see some laudatory stories about some of these new models in some pretty high-powered publications. Now, you might look at all this and say, nobody's really eating our lunch yet. Is this a threat to us? And right now, no, it's not. But I kind of wonder if we're just not looking at a puppy. Can we overcome this? I think we can, but I do have my worries. I worry sometimes that maybe we have become comfortably numb. think we can. I think we can because 50 years ago, we were the edu-punks. We were the upstarts. And still today, we are the leanest and meanest of any of these segments. We do with 1/3 of the money per FTES per student that UC gets. So I think we have it in us. Now, I don't think there's a magic solution to this because something like this has never happened on this scale in American education. Christensen says the essential message is that we're going to get disrupted. The only choice that's left is whether we do it ourselves or whether it is imposed on us from the outside. Now, the good news is that we have some time to wait and see if all of this is real and wait and see what the effects are because they're not coming for us first. The real danger is in that middle segment, the University of Utah represented, because Harvard and the other 50 elite colleges are always going to be Harvard. They have huge endowments, and you go there really for 3 reasons. You go there for the brand, for the Rolodex, and for the dating service. Community colleges are at the lower end of the market. We do a lot with a very little amount of money. So the people that are thought to be in real danger are the University of blank, monolithic U, monolithic state university, the one that's been growing their tuition far faster than the rate of inflation for 30 years. And now people are starting to question the value of their degrees. Christensen would say that it's very hard for an industry to disrupt itself, but not impossible. The way that most people have done it, Apple, for example, at a time when the Apple II accounted for most of their profits, they started up the Macintosh group, separated it physically on the Cupertino campus, and exempted it from most of their normal business rules. Fortunately, in education, at least in K-12 education, we have a model for this. They're called charter schools. Second, I told you earlier that when I went to the formal music store and left, I had vowed never to come back. Well, I did come back several years later when they asked me to be the teacher. I have a few letters after my name, like most of you, so you might correctly surmise that I returned to formal education elsewhere in my life. But in that one, I've never lost the lesson that formal education, when it grows too far removed from informal education, is at peril. Lastly, Christensen would say, invest, but not big investments. At the beginning, we don't know what's going to work, so you might as well throw a little bit of money so you can hedge your bets. In other words, don't put all your eggs in one basket. Here, we're lucky enough to be ahead of the curve in the California community colleges. We already have things like a data warehouse. We're working on analytics. In the future, we hope to devote more effort to something called customer relationship management, or in this case, student relationship management. That's a way of putting the student truly at the heart of our IT systems. We have adopted or created, along with literally hundreds of you helping us, systems such as My Academic Plan, Sherpa. Now we're working on predictive analytics. And we hope to give those away to 2.5 million students in the California Community College system because every student in our system deserves success. Lastly, what we can do is to pilot test some of these crowdsourced, grab-the-rope kinds of services. Here's an interesting model I saw recently. Kepler is using content from the MOOCs, the massively online open courses, but it's also recruiting folks like you and me to physically go to Rwanda for intensive educational experiences consisting of the things that still don't translate well online. I think the future is going to be bringing together the formal and informal educational spaces. In closing, I don't know how you spent your vacation, but my wife and I rented an RV and took our 2 hound dogs, Honey on the left and Bluebird on the right. We took them up the coast, touring the wine country. They had a great time. I thought, wow, what a state we live in. It's amazing. And with that in mind, my wish for you, now that you're back, rested and ready, is that you bring together the formal and informal, that you do what teachers have always been doing, when you change people's lives for the better. And this is California. What they say about California is you can check out anytime you like, but you can never leave.
think you're safe. President Padberg will not be singing. Chancellor Portner will be keeping his shoes on during this part of the presentation. And my piano teacher fired me when I was 11 years old. We're about to celebrate 640 years of service to the district by these 58 people that will be coming forward. Let's give each one that's going to step a round of applause first. And we're going to go through, we have people ranging from 37 people or 27 people that have served for 5 years, all the way to Ann Cox, who couldn't be here today, with 35 years of service. We have a large range of people. So let's go through. Let me start with this, with Jim Zoval. 5 years of service. Yes. And if you can come over this way, Jim. Feel free to cheer, scream, and yell all you want. When you come up for your service, then please come up to this safe passage marked by plants. Come across the front, shake the hands, and then exit over here where Terry Flugelman will assist you if you need. Matt Wolkin, 5 years of service. Matthew Trushler, 5 years of service. Nicholas Traney from Saddleback College, 5 years of service. Blake Stevens from Saddleback College, 5 years of service. Hey, how you doing? Stephanie Sorensen, Saddleback College, 5 years of service. Parisa Soltani, 5 years of service from Irvine Valley College. Maureen Smith from Saddleback College, 5 years of service. Michelle Russo from Saddleback College, 5 years of service. Joshua Pryor with 5 years of service at Saddleback College. Veronica Obermeyer, Saddleback College, 5 years of service. Emily McKenzie, Irvine Valley College, 5 years of service. And Ardith Lynch from Saddleback College, 5 years of service. June Keel, Irvine Valley College, 5 years of service. Maria Kernan, Irvine Valley College, 5 years of service. Diana Hurlbutt, Irvine Valley College, 5 years of service. Elizabeth Horan, Saddleback College, 5 years of service. Jennifer Hedgecock, Saddleback College, 5 years of service. Melanie Harari, Irvine Valley College, 5 years of service. Georgina Guy, Saddleback College, 5 years of service. Sanjay Gupta, Irvine Valley College, 5 years of service. Frank Gonzalez, 5 years of service, Saddleback College. Bruce Gilman, 5 years of service, Saddleback College. Carolyn G., Saddleback College, 5 years of service. Robert Farnsworth, Saddleback College, 5 years of service. Julie Evans, Irvine Valley College, 5 years of service. Maria de la Palme, Irvine Valley College, 5 years of service. John Davison, Irvine Valley College, 5 years of service. Kim Darcy, Saddleback College, 5 years of service. Carrie Crabb, Saddleback College, 5 years of service. Barbara Cox, 5 years of service at Saddleback College. Christopher Claflin, Saddleback College, 5 years of service. Joanne Chen, Irvine Valley College, 5 years of service. Terry Chetkupt, Irvine Valley College, 5 years of service. Michael Chasins, at Irvine Valley College, 5 years of service. Donald Bradshaw, Irvine Valley College, 5 years of service. And then Michael Bennett, Saddleback College, 5 years of service. Okay. Yeah. 15 years of service. Richard White, Saddleback College. Hey. Toshio Welchel, Irvine Valley College. Fawn Tanraverdi, Irvine Valley College. Lisa Silveria, Saddleback College, 15 years of service. Tom Pestolacy, Irvine Valley College, 15 years. Hey, fun. Yolanda Gouldsmith, Irvine Valley College, 15 years. Dale Carranza, 15 years, Irvine Valley College. Okay. 20 years of service. Gary Reibold, Irvine Valley College. Congratulations. Scott Fire, Saddleback College, 20 years of service. David DeLeo, Saddleback College, 20 years of service. Okay. The next group may need some help going up and down the stairs after 25 years. Samantha Venable, 25 years of service at Saddleback College. Arlene Thomas, 25 years of service at Saddleback College. Mike Petrigig, Saddleback College, 25 years of service. Barbara Penland, 25 years of service, Saddleback College. Good job. Sharon Nossenbaum, Saddleback College, 25 years of service. Sherry Miller White, 25 years of service. Connie Kayette, 25 years of service, Saddleback College. Steve Honda, Saddleback College, 25 years of service. See ya. Congratulations. Lem Chin, Saddleback College. Watch the stairs. Congratulations. 30 years. Seth Hotchwald, Irvine Valley College. That's it, Chancellor Portner.
This marks the end of our session today. I want to thank you for your attention. I want to recognize and thank my staff who works hard to help prepare for this annual event. And thank you to the Saddleback College Fine Arts staff for the jazz ensemble and use of the theater. And to those of you that work behind the scenes to make this happen, I'd like to recognize a couple of people in my office. Grace Garcia. Joyce Bartlemain. Natalie Cooney. And of course, the producer of this whole thing, Terry Flugerman. You might have noticed that we talked a lot today about change. These changes are happening at the federal, the state, and the local levels. The president has set expectations for meeting the college completion and workforce needs. Legislators, regardless of their party, are focused on reforming the education system in order to reach these goals. Our governor and state legislators are anxious to see results from the Student Success Task Force recommendation, but they are also exploring further initiatives to reinvest in education. Business leaders are calling for a more responsive alignment of education and industry. Like many things, how we react to change can make all the difference. I hope you will join me in embracing change in a constructive and meaningful way. Our students deserve to see us constantly striving for improvement. Change can yield improvement. We have a choice to be part of the change or just let it happen to us. I hope I've sparked you to think and change a little here today, and I hope you have a wonderful semester.